Hey guys, today we're going to talk about winter bass movement. We're going to go through the unit. I'm going to show you kind of how I believe fish move, how they set up, and kind of what they do throughout the unit. So maybe it'll help you the next time that you go fishing. So the first thing I like to do when I go to a new lake, or even, whenever I'm fishing the same lake, is you have to establish on the lake where a lot of the spawning areas are. This giant flat here is one of the biggest flats on the lake that we are talking about. So I know that there's going to be a concentration of fish that use this area. They're going to use it in the spring, they're going to use it in the summer, and they're going to use it in the winter. Now, I'm not saying that some of these skinny ditches that there aren't fish that use that, but in my opinion, the concentration is going to be bigger around that. And even though we're talking about spawning areas, they still relate to winter. So this is going to be some of the areas that I'm going to look at first, just because I know there's probably going to be a larger number of fish that's going to use that area. So between these flats, you see these ditches, creek channels, things like that. That's how these fish are going to travel. So, and some of these larger creeks, and I know it's hard to get an idea. This creek's probably, a mile long. It's my opinion that a lot of these fish that use these creeks, they don't go all the way back out to the main lake. What they'll do is they actually just kind of float back and forth in the creek. They may pull out here around the mouth, depending on how cold it is or what the weather is, but they're probably not going to leave the entire creek. And something else you have to think about is there's fish that, a lot of fish are different. I mean, I think there's fish that are kind of residents that live in certain areas. There may be one fish that lives in the back of this creek year round. And there's also groups of fish. There's schools of fish that live out here close to the channel, and that school is that, the big wave that everybody talks about that comes in and spawns. So there's different kinds of fish. So, in the wintertime, notice this creek right here doesn't really have a distinct channel. So a lot of these fish are probably just going to set up in here on these points and some of these steeper edges. You get into some of these areas that have, bigger channels, like this creek here, distinct creek channel. Okay, it runs back here. You're going to look for areas that, the channel may sweep up to shallow water. So what do they want in the wintertime? They want to be around deep water, but they also want to be able to get up there in that shallow water and feed. I don't care if the water's 35 degrees. There's still going to be a lot of fish that feed up shallow. It may be at night, but there's going to be a lot of fish that feed up shallow. So if I'm going out, in the winter, what I like to do a lot of times, if I haven't been on the lake ever, or if I haven't been on my home lake in a while, I want to start with areas that are transition. Well, you can actually see there's a trail there. You see how this is really, really steep? And then it flattens out. That is a transition area. And the reason being is I can start right here, fish down this steep wall, and fish that flat area just right there. And if I fish 2 or 3 of those, I'm going to get an idea of where these fish are set up. Am I catching most of them where it's steep? Am I catching most of them where it's shallower? Or am I catching it right, where it transitions right in the center? And that kind of gives you an idea of where to go next. If I'm getting a lot of bites on this area right here where it's real shallow, then I'm going to hop over here and start fishing, more shallow stuff. But you still have to remember, not all fish are doing the same thing at the same time. So, you may catch some here, and you may catch some there. It's just then you kind of got to start looking for, well, am I catching more? Are they bigger? Are they healthier? Are other guys fishing this or other guys fishing that? So the main thing about the winter is to know that the channel, the winter and the summertime is when the channel really, really comes into play. Creek channels, main river channel, That's where a lot of the shad pull out and ball up. Therefore, that's where a lot of the bass will pull out and follow them.